Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. Today, we are talking about the internet as the cul de sac of our children. I hear a lot, but my child needs to play this game or be on that platform. Young people will use this argument, and sometimes adults will use it towards me. Say, well, I get this. I understand that I want to make sure the tech is safe, and I want to make sure that we only use the tech that is the safe, ready, and good, for example. Or only use technology that improves my child's reset. But my child needs to have friends. My child needs social connection. All the other kids are online, so my kid needs to be there. I understand the argument, and actually, I do agree. What I like to remind families about, both parents and young people, is that the internet is the new cul-de-sac. That's where almost all young people, well over 90% of young people have a regular daily access to the internet, and they are on it every day. Of those 93%, over half of them say they're on it almost constantly because of a personal device, either a phone or a watch. They are constantly browsing, constantly checking, and constantly getting notifications, continually connected. So your child is not lying when they go, all of my friends have smartphones and all of my friends are on social media. That's true. The question is, where's this cul-de-sac where our children are growing up, where they're meeting people and hanging out and learning new life lessons? It's next to a freeway and a federal penitentiary in the red light district at midnight. That is the cul-de-sac of the internet. So when we talk about putting accountability, for example, on our child's devices, it's not because we're scared of our kid. It's because we're sending them to a place that is inherently unsafe. It is not made for children. There's no kids' version of the internet. It's just the internet, which is all of the worst parts of humanity, just one tab away. We've kind of grown used to it. Those of us who grew up with the internet, I grew up in the 90s through my teenage years. And so like dial-up internet into cable internet into wireless internet has become a natural progression of like, of course, it's the internet. Like, I know what a creepy stranger looks like, and I know when I'm going someplace that mistakes happen more readily than other places. Young people don't necessarily understand that. To them, it's just another avenue of interaction, and the internet's not. The internet does not care that your child is a minor or that that was a misclick on a keystroke and sends them to a different nefarious response. That's why barriers are loving. They're not based out of fear. It's based out of the knowledge of, I'm not trying to, in talking to my children, I'm not trying to stop you from making a mistake online. I'm trying to ensure that if someone or something unsafe wants to get a hold of you, I'm aware that it's occurring. So yeah, you're wise and you're making good choices. And I know that you're a responsible kid. And sometimes things get out of hand on the internet. So in talking about cul-de-sacs, remember where it is. Remember that the internet cul-de-sac is inherently unsafe and not designed for children. And then out of that go, okay, with this cul-de-sac, what do we do? Do I give my child this game? Do I allow my child to use that device or listen to that music or hang out with people in this digital cul-de-sac space? Sometimes the answer is yes. Now, in previous episodes, we've talked already about the reset, meaning is my child currently healthy? Relationships and responsibilities, emotions, sleep, enjoyment, time. So that's one conversational avenue. We won't go more into that today. And then we have is the technology itself safe, ready, and good? Is it safe by design? Is my child ready for it based on other real life responsibilities, including the reset? And is the fruit good? When my child uses this, do they become more of who they're designed to be, or are they distracted from it? So in light of that, we then have a footing to talk about specifically getting our kids around friends and maybe using digital spaces or not using them. And I want to first talk about the friend side. And this came up at a recent talk. So first it's friends. And then I want to talk specifically about how some tech can support this, but not all tech. Some tech is just going to be inherently dangerous and we should avoid it until our children are old enough to have adult level responsibilities thrust upon them. So let's go first with friends. When we talk friends in digital spaces are the exact same as friends in the real world in terms of what we expect from them, but they're not the exact same in terms of what they can do for us. So starting off with that is the fact that friends need to be real world individuals that we can interact with. So while you can have digital friends, and I know people listening to this are gonna be like, yeah, but I met this person through a game or through a chat or through a whatever, and we're connected across continents and we are friends. We share real life and we communicate, and that's beautiful. But if that's your friend group is probably 3 people, maybe 6. When we're talking individuals that meet 3 criteria, they're real world, they are a priority to you. You say no to some things to say yes to this person, and they're of equal value to you, meaning you are not subservient to this individual. You're not just a fan, and you're not ruling over them. You're not some kind of relational dictator. In that case, each of you gets an equal say. Like, I want to go do A, and the other person goes, I want to do B, and you have to work it out. The problem with internet friends is that very rarely is the case. You're usually together because you have a common interest. So we're both playing the same game. We're both watching the same shows. We're both listening to the same music, and we're here because of this common agreement we have. That doesn't make you a priority, and that doesn't make you of equal value. In fact, many times, especially young men, I see this happen too, where they're like, we play games and therefore we're friends. But as soon as you want to play a different game, that other individual has no value for you. They have value for your squad involvement. And it is possible that person goes, you know what? Join back anytime you want to come hang out with us. That's very gracious, and that's very, community oriented, but that's not a friend. That's just someone running a group that you're welcome to be a part of or not, and they could carry less either way. That's important. Too often we've seen people, even in the church environment, where people go, you know what, I'm going to belong to a church. I now attend this church on Sundays at 10 a.m. through the internet. And that can be awesome, especially if you're sick or if you're immobilized for any particular reason, or if you're just in between, you can't be at church because you're working or whatever, you can still attend and be fed and be part of a greater community. But let's say something happens where someone from that church hurts you, or that pastor says something you don't like. It is so easy to just open a new tab and now you go to a different church. That is not biblical. That is not what we are called to. We are called to bear one another's burdens. We're called to repent and confess our sins to one another. We're called to admonish one another and encourage and bring Holy Spirit conviction to one another. And if someone over the internet says something I don't like to me, first of all, they never would be able to because they don't know me. But let's say they do, I can just ignore it and walk away. They're not in the room with me. I can just close the browser, go to a different room. I'm free, right? Free of conviction, free of that individual, free of any problems or having to solve them. Not just for myself, by the way. This isn't just because I need to be corrected. It's because sometimes people, out of jealousy, out of their own issues, they bring up unhealthy situations and they start lashing out at the people around them. And the last thing we want is for them to be able to just close a browser and walk away, when they need Holy Spirit conviction and saying, we understand you love Jesus. And part of that is bringing this fruit to him. And this is bad fruit. This is bringing a lack of health. We've had the chance to do this with people we love, and we've had people we love come to us, me and Anna being specifically, where they go, hey, how is this situation going? But we're looking at them face to face. And I have yet in any of these situations, and we've had it be around marriage and around substance abuse and around mental health and around children, these hard conversations in our own church community, I've yet for anyone to stand up and leave. Like, they're not all happy. Sometimes they emotionally shut down, but like, those are workable situations. So when I talk about friends, they must be real world. They must have you as someone of equal value, not just of convenience because you're playing the same games, you're on the same platform or using the same device. And they must make you a priority. They're going to say no to a game, to a show, to something fun and cool because they're saying yes to you. Doesn't mean you're the center of their universe. It just means out of the things they make a plan for in their month, you're part of that plan. That's a friend. So once we understand what a friend is, then we can start looking around and going, okay, does using this device, playing this game, listening to this music, participating in this technological foray, does this help you be a friend and have a friend? If the answer is yes, then cool. There are ways to manage this and make sure this works well. It is entirely possible to play a game with friends and leave that game having had a cool experience and being better friends. Video games can absolutely extend friendship. Social media can indeed help you plan real-world activities and connect with friends through a digital means. It can be really great. But what about the actual tech we're using? There's some that will benefit us more than others. So for example, if I were to go through tech that was, well, I guess made different is how we'll start. But let's start with some negative examples. First and foremost would be some social media. Let's look at 2 of them. So social media to connect with friends, to build friendships or even make friends. First example would be like Snapchat. Right now, it's very popular. Snapchat is built as a messaging app. So it's like just the direct message version of Instagram, where I can reach out to just an individual and it's just the two of us. And then they also have a feed where I can see a bunch of strangers and their content. But most people use it to connect with individuals, either they've met through that app or individuals they know in real life. So it's this direct messaging piece, which is great, except it isn't really built around communication and long-form relationship. It's about, I send you a snap, you snap me back, and now we have a streak of 1. And we're going to keep that going. And if you check my snap, but don't message me, it leaves a little red icon, so I know that you read it. And most young people, when they have a friend who reads their message and they don't respond right away, most young people assume there's some kind of beef, there's some kind of issue, something's going on between our friendship, and you may not like me, which makes me like you less. And it's, really like all the worst parts of a Shakespeare play, right? This is how it goes. Like, this is Othello, right? Where basically Snapchat is Iago. There's our 8th grade literature reference for the day. But as we think through this, Snapchat doesn't always benefit. It's not built to benefit long-form relationships or relationships that are built around real-world connectivity. It's not meant to help set up hangouts and make jokes. It's quick little messages, pictures of your nose while you're eating a sandwich, like just keep a streak alive. You're being trained by the app to do it, to act a certain way. So it's not the best. It's not the worst. The worst in terms of social media and building meaningful relationships would be TikTok. While you can search for specific content, you can't really curate it beyond what your views do. So you can constantly skip bad videos and always watch and like positive videos, or even more specifically, Christian videos, or more specifically theology and, worship videos. Like, okay, so it'll give you more content like that, but you can't go and just be like, all I want to see is these 3 people that I follow, or these 10 people that I know. TikTok is built for short form, very fast, max engagement at all costs. We've talked about this previously, but it does not care if what gets you engaged is something that bums you out, or something that lies to you about what your body looks like, or about what your identity is, or about who God is, about what the purpose of sex is, or any of those things. It simply wants you to stay a few seconds longer. Average video, 5 to 20 seconds. Average view time, 43 minutes. So we are talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of views in a day, making impressions on your child, some of them very traumatic, talking about eating disorders and body dysmorphia and wars and trauma in wars, hard world news that shouldn't be taken in 5 seconds at a time in no particular order, including and then on top of that, your favorite sports and your pets and your friends and dance moves that you like, and cooking shows. Great cooking tips on TikTok, but know how it's built. It's not built to help us engage in a cul de sac that's meaningful and beneficial. So with that in mind, Snapchat can help us connect with others one-on-one. There are strangers. There is a search feature, TikTok-esque, with short form videos, but that's not the primary reason. When people want that, they often go to TikTok. It is not helping you build real world relationships. It might help you stay in the know of like, well, this is what my friends are talking about. Please have excellent supervision and guardrails on that, because TikTok, again, engagement is number 1 over safety or minors or anything else. And then third would be an example of games would be Roblox. Roblox has repeatedly put the safety of minors underneath the priority of making income. Their stock is doing great. So as a company, they're successful and they're very pleased in terms of the feedback we've heard on the public announcements of what they're trying to do for safety, but there's no meaningful way to make sure your child doesn't run into unsafe content or unsafe strangers. So it's social media platform with avatars. Don't let your kid play Roblox right now, not until they fix it. Then what would positive aspects look like? Well, I think one grade down, it's not the safest, but if you look at how YouTube is designed, it does have a meaningful alteration for the kids mode. There is actually a change. Now, it's not perfect. You can get bad ads. Maybe paying for premium so there's no ads would make a lot of sense. I strongly encourage that. But if you're not doing that, the child's version does in fact change the results you're going to get, and harmful searches and harmful content is actively being rooted out. Are there still ways around it? Sure. Are there certain key searches you can do and almost always run into bad content? Yes. But an average child just trying to watch their favorite little show is generally not going to bump into the most traumatic content. It's not perfect. It's still the internet, and it's still video-based content made by strangers, but you can build view lists, for example, where you go and actually download yourself. We're only going to watch these 10 videos in sequential order, right? That's This is our view list. I open this view list and this is what we watch. That is an option. I would not encourage you to allow your child just free reign, especially we're talking if your child is 5 to 15, free range YouTube is probably not a great idea. But by the time you're 12, 13, 14, it's absolutely reasonable to go, you know what? You can watch this. We have accountability on here. You have an amount of time and you're going to do it in a public space. I get it, especially when you have kids who want to make content and upload it, right? I understand that. But YouTube would be an example of social media that's based on user interests. Will they still suggest videos? Yes, but there are boundaries and buffers and preferences you can set in so that it gives you content you actually want and you control the content. Yes, you can do shorts where it's little videos, but the shorts are even more manageable because you can always leave that and go long form videos that you've selected and that are based on your queries specifically. So I like that. You can go with something like a Yoto. Now, this doesn't build friends, but it's an example, I think, of an innovative premise. So you have a little box that can play audiobooks and can play music specifically for youngers, probably 12 and under. The idea, you get something that looks kind of like a Game Boy cartridge, you plug it in, it contacts an RFID that contacts the main server and downloads whatever the songs or story is. And then your child gets some independence with technology, but it doesn't have an app store. It doesn't have a browser where you can just go search and there's no strangers involved. So that would be a good example of like, man, there are some great things that can let my child dream and be amazed, but not put them at risk of unsafe and unhealthy individuals for the sake of profit. I mentioned, let's see, so social media first. So we talked about TikTok, Snapchat being built negatively. YouTube is one example. Another example of it being done pretty well would be something like FaceTime. So I have young people who talk with friends 30 minutes to an hour every evening through FaceTime. Generally, these are friends they have in real life. Sometimes they're people they've met through the internet and now they're communicating. But FaceTime means that you're not going to be contacting mass strangers. There's no search feed where it's suggesting content for you and you're engaging that person intentionally. Can you get deep faked? Sure. Can you get catfished? Absolutely. Catfish where someone pretends they like you, you start dating, but it's not actually that person at all. And they're usually in it for some other kind of nefarious purpose. They want your identity. They want you to ransom money. They want you to get into a crypto investment with them, like whatever that might be. It can happen, but the likelihood is way, way, way lower, especially if this is someone you know in real life. So Zoom can be a great way. I know people use FaceTime, Zoom, WhatsApp. There are strangers involved with. So there are safety precautions you can put on where you can say, hey, don't make my profile public. Parents can lock these in. So there are at least some measures, unlike a Roblox, where you can say, hey, you can only contact the 10 people that we've put in here. These are the people you can talk to on WhatsApp. There are at least some methods to doing that. Chris McKenna with Protect Young Eyes has a great how-to on that if you want to go check him out. protectyoungeyes.com.org. Now that I'm saying it, I'm not sure. I'll have it in the show notes. But that would be an example of, I want to connect with my friends, but we're not together, but we want to see each other so we can use the internet. I have young people from middle school through high school that do that. You still need to manage time and then whatever else is happening on the internet. We don't want our child just to hang out with one friend all day in a dark room. But it can be positive and it's much, much safer than, say, Snapchat or TikTok. And then for game side, something like, and I've mentioned before, the game itself, Minecraft, is not inherently safe for a child's brain, but in terms of access to strangers and unsafe content, miles ahead of something like Roblox. So first example, you can play Minecraft solo on our local computer, ready to go, no internet. You could play Minecraft multiplayer on a server that we host, or someone we know hosts. But if your kid goes and clicks multiplayer and just joins a random server out there that's got custom mods in it, there's a good chance it's just Roblox. There's unsafe strangers who have built who knows what into the game features. And you don't want your child just going and perusing strangers' Minecraft servers. But played solo or played on a controlled either local network, meaning we have 3 devices in our home and they all play together in the same game, or on a server that somebody hosts that we know who then allows us to join. Those can both be really positive, or I guess all 3 can be positive options. Minecraft can be miles ahead in terms of having a fun, shared online experience, playing a game with friends, even though the game itself is not inherently safe. It can be very overwhelming and overstimulating for young people. So I'm not saying go play Minecraft. I'm saying when we think about the cul de sac of the internet, that's what we're discussing. How do we build friends in the cul de sac of the internet? Real world, they need to make you a priority and they need to consider you of equal value to them. In light of that, there are some devices and some apps that help us build those friendships. TikTok and Snapchat really don't. They have fun content, they're very engaging, but they're not going to help you actually know people care about them and value them. Whereas something that is intentional is one-to-one or one-to-few, using Jonathan Haidt's explanation of what a friend is from the anxious generation, or actually, it's not what a friend is, it's what a real-world experience is. But that is what something like FaceTime allows you to do, or even WhatsApp. It's what something like Minecraft allows you to do. Even YouTube can be used that way, although it's not one-to-one or one-to-few. It's one to lots, dozens, hundreds, millions. But that idea, when we talk about how do we use the internet well, then we want to come back to, all right, this is the cul de sac. This is where people are going. There's very little chance that you're never going to engage the internet. Schools are going to have you do it. Friends are going to ask you to do it. You're interested in belonging. So then what are we actually trying to get out of this? Parents, you want your children to have friends and to learn how to be a friend. Jesus says to his disciples, I no longer call you servants, but I call you friends, because friends know what the master is doing, right? You are part of this work. And if we have that relationship with the God of the universe, it's absolutely a character trait we want to build into ourselves and instill in our children. So we want to make sure that we value others as equals, because they're made by God with equal value. Doesn't mean you agree with them. Doesn't mean you always are in lockstep with one another, but they're valuable. You're going to hear their disagreements and differences, understand them, and process that relationally. You're going to prioritize them. Go, you know what? We are going to meet up. We are going to hang out. We are going to do this activity together because you matter to me. You're going to make it into my month of planning for what I get to do with my very limited finite human time. And third and finally is, you know what? We are going to make sure that our relationship is somehow real world. And that's not always a possibility. I just want to strongly caution you to not rely only on internet relationships. It's too difficult for that friend to be there with you and be healthy at the same time. Either it gets into that codependent, I need this person to be okay, we're around each other all the time, or it slips the other direction where you just become convenient and therefore you became expendable. And we want to make sure that's not the case. So real world friends who value you, who are a priority, and that you know in your day-to-day life, and then tech can extend that. So I hope that this is encouraging to you, parents. If you're like, man, we actually don't have that, all you need is one family. You need one family whose young person can be on the same page with your family and go, you know what? We might play games, we might use social media, but that's not our main avenue for connecting. We're going to do it at the pace of real life. One family. From your church, from your school, from a local community group, maybe something that started out as we happen to both have kids in gymnastics, or both kids who play baseball, and can spiral from there into a more meaningful real world relationship. But the goal here is for our young people to be a friend and to have a friend, 1 to 3. That's all you need of people that meet that standard. Then would you talk about this with the families that you know in your church community, at your school, your neighbors, and then continue to help your children learn how to build these relationships. If you have any questions on it, you can reach out to me, Nathan at gospeltech.net, or on social media at LoveGodUseTech on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And would you join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can love God and use tech?